Sons of the Forest is a beautiful, broken mess. I know that sounds like a catchy, clickbaity title, but honestly, I can't think of a better way to put it. I love The Forest. I have almost 400 hours sunk into the original game, and even with the sequel out now, I'm pretty sure I'll end up doubling that time investment on my side. But Sons of the Forest, well, I've put in just a little under 6 hours so far in between my frantic work and university life, and I'll tell you right now, I do not want to put in as little as 6 hours more, let alone the other 394. It's crazy to me to see other people putting out videos praising this game as being this clearly superior, amazing sequel that does everything right compared to the original game. I'm just sat here wondering what wondrous brand of cocaine they found themselves snorting, because that's definitely not what I'm seeing on display during my hands-on experience. And I get that not everyone's going to have the same exact takeaway, obviously, dumbass. No one ever really does. But something just isn't adding up here. I'm not going to give you a long-winded explanation of the game's story or anything. Trust me, there are plenty of YouTube walkthroughs and cutscene scenes and everything you can find on your own. This isn't a review video. It's a review in progress, if you want to call it that. The basic premise is the same. Plane crashes into a seemingly abandoned island, you wake up to find someone rifling through the wreckage, and then you black out again, only to wake up later and from there on out attempt to establish a simple base of operations you can rest in and store your stuff in as you explore the island and uncover the many horrid mysteries it contains both above and below the ground. The island is beautiful, I've gotta say. The developers clearly outdid themselves upping the graphical rendering capabilities without compromising on optimization. The game looks great and runs great when it wants to run, which is only about half the time. Sons of the Forest has a very bad habit of just crashing unexpectedly at random moments. When I tried to play with a friend on launch day and over the subsequent days after, the game would just, on average, about every 15 or 20 minutes, crash for each of us. And we have wildly differing PC specs, so this isn't just a matter of, oh, one of you must be having a problem with your specific PC. Also, I've taken the trouble of checking the Steam forums, and the hard crashes seem to be a prevalent problem throughout most of the community. When your issue is this widespread and reported by this many people, odds are it's not a local issue on your end, but probably something to do with the game itself, as that's the only commonality across all of the different reports. After all, to quote Sherlock Holmes, the master of mystery himself, once you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Then you have the AI, which seems to be far buggier than the first game, which is unfortunate, as its evolution into being far more sophisticated here was one of the primary marketing focuses for Sons of the Forest. You're given an AI companion at the start of the game who does a lot of the basic survival tasks for you, like chopping down logs for wood, with which you can construct buildings and fortifications. But he's an idiot, and will gladly chop down trees that will land on you, your house, or even chop down trees on which your treehouse is built. Even when you tell him to stop what he is doing, he'll just resume chopping it down a few minutes later when your back is turned. The AI for hostile cannibals isn't all that much better. While they do appear more human-like in how they interact with each other, either in their own tribes or how they interact with cannibals from other tribes, because that's also a thing here, they haven't gotten all that much smarter in regards to how they respond to the player in combat. They don't bother coordinating their attacks outside of specific raids, during which even then they attack as individuals who just so happen to be running in a group rather than as an organized unit. Unless you're really bad at dodging out of the way of basic melee and projectile attacks, or otherwise have really poor situational awareness, you'll be more than prepared to handle realistically any number of cannibals. I haven't seen any mutants yet, although I'm sure that will soon change, since one of the natural evolutions in the original Forest game was that, as you make your presence more widely known, usually by engaging in frequent hostility with the locals, this will draw out the more powerful mutants like moths to a flame. I'm almost positive I'll have a lot more trouble with those guys than any raving band of cannibals. I absolutely hate what the developers have done with the build menu in your character's survival guidebook. Gone are almost all of the basic pre-designed structures and items you could have made in the original game. The current guidebook contains maybe 10 or 20% of that which was already contained in the original game's guidebook. While it is nice that Sons of the Forest gives you a significantly expanded and overhauled custom building system, which was something the first game was kind of lacking a bit on, because the ability to build stuff without relying exclusively on a few specific designs is really, really nice. It's idiotic to use such as a merely replacement for, rather than a valuable addition to, the previous functional system. Sons of the Forest isn't about giving players more options, it's just about giving them different options, and taking away the old ones. I've very rarely seen a sequel more ashamed of its previous game to the point where it strips away most of the functional mechanics that no one was complaining about from the original game, just to say they're being different. It's a really bizarre development choice, and I have no idea why they went that direction. Chopping down trees, one of the things that players would usually find themselves doing the most in the original game, is a lot more interesting and rewarding here, as you actually see wood chips flying out in all directions as you make each cut. And you can easily measure how much more of the tree you still have to cut based on each swing. The problem is, unlike the original game where fallen trees would slowly regrow over time at a rate of about 10% or so for every night that your character slept, these trees in Sons of the Forest do not regrow at all. I don't know if their regrowth rate is bugged or if the developers just decided to remove tree regrowth altogether, which would be mind-numbingly stupid if they did, but not the only mind-numbingly stupid thing they did in this sequel, so I suppose it's possible. They did, after all, decide to disable item respawning for most items in the original game, which, similar to YouTube deciding to remove the dislike button, no one in the community really liked, so they're not exactly immune from making dumb decisions just for the sake of making dumb decisions. Personally, for me, if it's the case that it's not bugged but this was in fact a deliberate design choice, I kind of hope they pull away from that and introduce a compromise instead, where instead of trees slowly regrowing every night, maybe they regrow every season, because we do have a season system in the game. That way you don't have the player depopulating the entire forest overnight, but at the same time the player is still free to build whatever elaborate forts they want, as long as they have the patience to slowly grind for it over time. But I'm still not ruling out the incredibly high probability that this is just some dumb bug that they didn't bother addressing the past, 5 or 6 years they've been developing this sequel. Overall, I'm just going to come out and say it. Sons of the Forest is in many, many ways an embarrassing downgrade from the high standards we got from the original game. It leaves little to the imagination as to why Endnight decided to delay this game again, and again, and again, and again, before finally punting the ball and releasing as an early access title, after spending 90% of their promotional campaign advertising it as a complete game. It's because at the end of the day, this is not a complete game. What we have here cannot even be called a beta, as a beta would imply that the primary developmental focus and quality standards would reflect that this game was merely in need of some technical fine-tuning to reduce the impact of bugs, or even hopefully remove them entirely, and improve other stuff like optimization. In reality, what little we have here could be generously referred to as a pre-alpha. We have lots of missing content, lots of technical issues, and only a few vague indicators from the developer as to what we can expect in the months and probably years to come. I would be extremely remiss in preemptively telling you, based on my limited experience so far with the sequel, whether this game is worth buying or not. I do intend to follow through with a full review when I've played through the entire available story content, unlocked most of the craftable weapons and items, and otherwise seen everything else that Sons of the Forest has to offer. I am not trying to put the cart ahead of the horse here, these are just my thoughts so far, but I have no hesitation in saying that I'm getting some extremely bad vibes from this current build of the game. Hopefully things will get better, in both the short term and the long term. I don't say things just to be contrarian or to seem edgy or cool. I say these things because I genuinely believe what I say, and my experience with the game is what led me to form these views. I don't watch or read other people's previews or reviews before working on my own, because I don't want to be overly influenced by what other people think. Aside from using the Steam forums to do some basic fact-checking, which was necessary for me to put together this video, everything else you heard here was me going off my own personal experience. If you play the game and are absolutely loving every minute of it, more power to you. I am not trying to attack you or invalidate your experience with the game. But for those of you still on the fence about whether or not you should buy it, because you, like me, have bills to pay and a budget to adhere to, I want to make sure you have the most accurate information possible before you throw your money at a game. But that's where I'm going to wrap it up for today. As ever, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the like button and comment below what you think of the game. Likewise, subscribing and clicking the bell really helps. I know it's cliche, but YouTube algorithm is a pain in the ass, as everyone knows. So there's that. This is Warrior Dan signing out. Stay awesome, everybody. Stay safe and peace out.